Okay. So we're a small but powerful group, and I welcome you, and I hope you're enjoying the summer, even though it's been uh, not such a nice summer, but whatever. Um, so I can't remember who it was, and I apologize for not remembering that, who gave me these questions. I don't know, maybe it was Barbara, but I'm not sure. Barbara Finkel. If a great flood was coming, what 10 pieces of Regent history, stories, or historical information that you now have would you take with you? So, anybody want to respond to that?
I'll start.
Okay.
First of all, I want to share that at our branch conference in May, we shared all the histories of our affiliates. And that was really a wonderful opportunity to learn from each other. And there was a lot of history there that we have now compiled. So
That's fun.
that was really exciting. I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I did a lot of writing. And we first became because I we were a branch first, uh, Northern California, and we were 14 sisterhoods. And my memories are really vivid because we got to meet in person. Because geographically, Walnut Creek to San Jose to Saratoga to Vacaville to Sacramento. Well, Corey knows because I took you for
Yeah.
a ride many years ago. And it was wonderful to have those kind of opportunities to meet in person. So the memories are Jenny Miller, may she rest in peace, her round table that she got from China, that we would meet around the table, board meetings, like 20 plus of us, and I have photographs. Those are super strong memories. Meeting at Rabbi Ted Alexander's home in his study, where Gertrude made all this wonderful food. And those meetings are just vivid because some of us had to get a traffic from San Jose to Walnut Creek is not fun. If you've been to the Bay Area recently, crossing the Bay Bridge at certain times of the day, it's not a good idea because you'll be spending hours on the road. So those memories are vivid. And then we became and we met. We would come to conventions, 17 or 20 of us just from Northern California. Those were huge memories and just being together. We were all really close friends, and some of us aren't with us anymore. So those memories are still so important. And in 2008, we became a branch,
No,
a region,
a region.
Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. And Margie was our very first consultant in Portland, Oregon. And it was so wonderful to meet these wonderful women that we all became a region. Hi, Lana. And the gift we gave to each other is still so important. So we had a banner, we made a banner, and we have a song because you come to our room at convention, and we're small but mighty. So those are still a big part of us, even though last time there were 10 of us at in Illinois. And just the memories of being at convention and it raining in the ballroom and singing in the rain and the elevators and the fire drills and just all of those memories are just a big part of all of us, I know. But for North by Northwest, when we get together, it's really a gift because we're now very geographically it's not so easy. For instance, I'm a president right now, and I can visit the Bay Area synagogues, and Jennifer can visit the synagogues up in the Pacific Northwest, along with Wendy, because her daughter lives in Seattle or near Seattle. So, yeah, I have lots of things I wrote down, but just the gift of each other is such a big part of our history. And I'm going to write about that. And I'm going to write about the times we've met and the memories we've made. And, you know, every time we got together at a spring conference, we always had an art project, always. And the other wonderful thing I have memories of is our presidents, our Women's League presidents, came to Northern California. I had Gloria for lunch in my dining room. I had Corey in my home. Evelyn came. Janet came up to me many years ago and said, "Sandy, are you ready?" I'll never forget that. I said, "Are you ready for what?" I had no idea that people were considering me to make steps of leadership in Women's League. I had no idea. I was so honored, and I still am. So, yes, Women's League is a big part of North by Northwest, huge. And as I said, we're small but mighty. And Lana's with us, and she's got the whole history, a lot of her time of the Pacific Northwest. So we're so lucky. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Sandy, I hope, thank you very much. And I hope you will include some of those memories as well as the culture. The culture, it's so important to present the culture of your branch,
Yes.
the branches, and then the region, so that we have a sense as to who you were and who you are today. So
Okay.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you. Cindy, you're on mute.
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go. Okay. Well, I don't think anybody's ever had this experience because at the time, Jillian Krieger was the president, and I think they had an executive person at the time, which was appointed, like me. I was there. So we went to a hotel for our conference, and we didn't have a Torah. So we got a small Torah from Beth Shalom, our synagogue, and we had to bring it to the hotel, and we didn't know where to put it because we didn't really have a place yet. So Jillian and I put the Torah under our bed, and we slept in the bed in the hotel in Northbrook for the night with the Torah under our bed till the next day. It was way before we needed our own sister. We knew we needed a sisterhood Torah or some kind of a Torah that was ours, but we didn't have it. So that was one of our experiences. I said, "Oh my God, how many people can say they slept on top of a Torah?" Well, it was, we kept it right, and we had a beautiful convention. But just as Sandy was saying, when we were a branch, we were a very tight group. We had, let's see, we had Jillian Krieger's sister-in-law, oh my God, I just forgot her name. Corey, you know her, come on.
Go ahead, and it'll come to you.
Jillian's sister-in-law, she lives downtown. She has some major health issues. A lot of these people are not with us. Barbara Weiss in the beginning was one of the youngest sisterhood branch president. We are the same age. Barbara and I are the same age. So it was like mine was 2000, and she was when we went to the Concord, she was the president at one of our first conventions that I went to at the Concord. It was Judy is her name. Judy, Jillian's sister-in-law. Jillian Krieger's sister-in-law.
Keep going, you'll get it. You'll remember.
I'll get it. Okay. Anyway, we were a very close group. We had some dynamic women. We would go, and then we would have our meetings. we would rent a bus from the city and from the suburbs, and we'd all go down to Spertus, and we'd have the Spertus Museum, and they have a top floor with windows that you could see Michigan Avenue. And I would order our box lunches. We would have the meeting at Spertus, and we always had a speaker. And it took me months every month to make the meeting. I would work on, you work on your agenda, what's happening. I always had a speaker, so it was enticing to people to come. And once a year we called it a meeting in the city. And we schlep everybody down in a bus who didn't live down there. And that was one of the highlights of our meetings for the year. We would do that, and we were very close. And I remember conference took a whole year. And we look forward to every month meeting at somebody's house for the conferences. But it took, everybody probably did this, but we were just very close. And I was one of the younger people in the region branch at the time. And that's what I remember the best.
So I think that, again, looking at the culture of your branch and then of the region, one of the things that might be interesting for people to do in their history is to talk about that face-to-face feel and how you are getting it today.
We're not doing as much.
Of course, you're not doing as much face-to-face, but I have to tell you that starting the pandemic, there were friends that, Women's League friends actually, that we wanted to hold on to.
Right.
And we started meeting every week during the pandemic on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And we continue that today. So we've got that same, it's not physical, but we've got that same kind of a feeling of being together. And I think there are other ways that many of you have done it so that you feel close. And that might be something you want to include. Who else would like to share? Thank you, Cindy. Barbara.
Okay. Southern region was Southern branch, and the only changes when we became a region were I think one or two sisterhoods joined us from Seaboard because they were in North Carolina. This is Southern region. And so we have, Southern region has archives that are stored at the Bremen Museum. Bremen, is that right, Madeline? Did I say it right? Bremen, sorry. The Bremen Museum in Atlanta. And Madeline and Regina Newman and Marcia Fish went to the museum and went through all of those archives. Fortunately, many of the papers they were going through were duplicates. We know that Southern region was founded by Phyllis Grusin Weinstein. And she was from Birmingham, Alabama, which I guess they seceded. They left Florida region and formed this new branch. And so in 1958, from 1958 to 1960, they were a branch in training. And I don't know if there were other branches in training, but they were a branch in training. And they had their first conference with 11 sisterhoods. And we are desperately trying to figure out who those 11 sisterhoods were, because that information was not in the archives. But we went through, all of us, Madeline and Regina sent everything they found, pictures of everything to everybody. So even I in New Jersey could see everything that they found. And so we chose some things from the archives as part of our region history. And number one on our list is a photo that was taken in 2009. It was taken in Birmingham, Alabama. And in that photo, is Phyllis Grusin Weinstein, who was the first branch president in 1960. And in that photo is me. I was the first region president, and we were on a tour. And also in that photo is Corey, because she was the international president. And we have this photo that will end up in the in the final document, with those three presidents at the time. We have photos from conventions, and we are still trying to figure out who all the women are. We have a photo from 1984, and Marcia Fish was the Southern Branch president. We have a photo from 2012 when Anne Greenbaum was the Southern Region president. And we have a photo from 2006 convention when Paula Copeland was the Southern Branch president. Another thing on our list is a very special president's pin. The women, I think women did this in all of the region, in all of the branches. They adorned their or enhanced their president's pins. And Frances Solomon, who was the president of the Southern Branch president from 2000 to 2002, had enhanced her branch pin, president's pin, with diamonds. And after her term, the next president was Gloria Adelson. She was president from 2002 to 2004. Fran Solomon got very ill at the end of her presidency, and she knew that she was going to die, and she wanted to be sure that her president's pin didn't end up somewhere, or nobody would take it apart, or just for the diamonds. So she gifted her president's pin to Gloria. And Gloria started the tradition of passing down that diamond president's pin to every branch president, and then to the region presidents. And to this day, it's still being passed down. Marcia Ramey is the current Southern Region president, and she has that pin.
Wow.
And then we also found, not in the archives, but in my house, we found Southern Region note cards. So there are more items on the list, but that pin was really very special, and it's still, that tradition is still being taken, is still going on.
Fabulous, Barbara. Thank you. That's
Well,
really
thank you to Madeline and Marcia and Regina for going through all those archives.
so Beth. Beth was impressed with the fact that you had a museum that was willing to take your archives. That's not. I mean, you can resource that and see. I know that the Michigan branch archives are held by, for instance, the UJA of Greater Detroit, the Federation of Greater Detroit, and there are many branches / regions that have their archives being held by museums. Look for regional museums, and also look for more local museums, and know that if you don't find a local museum, or if you prefer, Women's League, JTS will hold the archives. They're not as physically accessible because many of you are far away. But don't give up. I mean, know that you can take those archives to a museum, and they will probably hold them for you. Cindy?
Yeah, in Chicago, all of the Jewish organizations, at least at the time I was president, and the branches that I knew afterwards, all sent information and their flyers to Spertus Museum. And since then, some of the museums have put them on, computer things. And, but I don't know how much we have found.
Okay.
So it wasn't just Women's League. They did all the National Council of Jewish Women. They had a whole thing, and that was really the culture of the the women's movement at the beginning in the 70s. He made sure they had their information from all the organizations.
This group, I think they brought everything to the Bremen Museum in the 1990s. But Madeline, you're waving your hand, so.
There were more than, if we count the two that are currently sitting on my dining room table and the three that Regina has in her home, more than 20 file boxes, and I mean the large file boxes filled with materials. When Regina was complaining about how many duplicates there were, let me tell you, it wasn't even one file box worth of duplicates. We went through every single page of those 20 plus file boxes. And on July 28th, the last 5 of them, because one of our region presidents had it with her, and we got them from our conference in Birmingham this year. So the last 5 will go to the Bremen, but it was an enormous amount. And one other thing that I'm going to have Barbara do a little more looking for is one of my sisterhood's members had some leftover materials when I asked her, because she's 90, when I asked her if she had anything, I walked into her house just to get them so that she would not be inconvenienced. And there was this just beautiful art piece as you walk in the entry that was done, a handcraft that was done. And I said to her, Doris, this is just gorgeous. And she said, that's funny that you should mention that. I did that for one of our conferences for our art project, and I won 2nd place. And so I took a photograph of it, and it's amongst and amidst many of the pages that will be forwarded to Women's League. So there's just enormous amount of things that will go. Barbara just picked 10. But another one, if I may, Barbara, that I loved, we have the program from a conference, and special in that it was held at Ramat Darom when Ramat Darom, Georgia, was first there. And so Southern Region had a conference there. Barbara was president, and help me with her name, was president of Women's League.
Rita Wortley, maybe.
No,
No?
she was consultant. Who was consultant at the time?
The consultant was Debbie Goldich.
Oh, Debbie, okay.
Debbie Gold.
And it was the first time that she had ever.
That all these names just popped into place at this one conference, and we have the whole program, including the fact that they visited Falling Waters, and it was just so special to have it together and it will be displayed on Fiche.
And that was that program that we have, that outline that we found was not the listing and all that went out to everybody when they came to the conference. That was Martha Siegel's outline. She was putting it together, and that was the outline that told who the moderator was for every session.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun, a lot of memories.
So as we're hearing lists from you, think about ways that you can incorporate, I mean, the warmth, enthusiasm, and love that you have into your histories, because it's part of who you are, and a most important part of who you are. And I think it's so valuable to transmit to others who will read about your histories who you were and the important things that you were able to glean, like the relationships to each other.
I
And
think the difficult part is knowing that it was 1958 when we started, and we don't have those years to really understand.
yes, it is very difficult because you don't, but and I've said it before, and I'll probably say it many times again. Whatever you're missing, don't let it stop you from sharing what you have.
Right.
It's really important. Marcia, your hand is up.
Yeah, I didn't write anything down because I just didn't. So what I'm going to share is from my memories. Um, I am the oldest surviving branch president of Seaboard Branch. That's hard for me to say, but it's true. All of my predecessors, and sadly, some of the women who came after me, are now deceased. Some very special, wonderful women. But I was president of Seaboard Branch in 1990. And at that particular time, to fill in the gaps for Southern Branch, Seaboard was founded in April of 1945. And at that time, the sisterhoods in Southern were part of Seaboard. So that'll fill in, a little piece of what happened before. Barbara was right. When we maintained our integrity when we went from a branch to a region. A couple of sisterhoods went to Southern, and we picked up the two sisterhoods in Harrisburg. So Corey then became a part of Seaboard. My memories go back to the conference memories. I had all of the conference programs for many, many years, and they are currently sitting in Julia Loeb's house, or they've been picked up by Marcia Lawson, who was working on our archives at one point. So Barbara's shaking her head. So Barbara Finkel. So I don't know where they are at the present time, but a lot of the records were brought to Julia before Julia was president. And so we're going to have to figure that all out. I think Barbara has got some people to work with her and to help this. So Seaboard will finish this project, that's for sure. But some of the things that were special beside the conferences, beside the executive committee meetings that used to be held around people's dining room tables, besides the conferences that were 2 or 3 days in length way back when, we had an off convention year. We were privileged because of our location to hold the Capitol Conference in Washington, D.C. I don't know how many of you ever attended that Capitol Conference, but it was a political, it was Bernice Balter's baby, and she organized it. She made arrangements for all of the speakers. She arranged for lobbying on Capitol Hill. She arranged for dinners at the Israel Embassy. It was a special opportunity for those women who were able to come, and they came from all over the country, even though it was in Washington, and it was on the off year of convention. My first convention was 1978 when Goldie Queller became president. So as you can tell, I do go back a couple of years. My memory's not so great, but I do go back. But like everyone has said, the camaraderie, the friendships, the people that I've met, many of you who are on this call tonight, our paths have crossed in many, many ways. I think I was a consultant for Northern California at one time. I was out in a couple of the other regions, branches, whatever they were called. in my mind, it's all interchangeable. Well, not, I mean, I call them all regions now, but um, that's where my memories are. I remember working with Corey on a Women's League bylaws change that I did when I was president. Florence Rogers, who was our founding president in 1945, always wanted to be involved and be international, either an international vice president or an international president or Torah Fund something. I don't exactly recall what it was, but she lived too far away. She lived in Baltimore. And at that particular time, the Women's League bylaws said that the international president had to come from within 100 miles of New York City. And to me, that was not right. Florence used to come to each one of us, if I may take a second to just ramble a little. Each president who came on, every time, whether it was Bernice Moses or Zelda Dick or Matt Liadine, all of whom are now deceased, she would ask them, and you say, you've got to get the bylaws changed. You've got to get the bylaws changed. So when it was my turn, she said to me, you've got to get the bylaws changed. And I took it upon myself to do that. I said, I'm going to work with Corey. I think you were what? You were parliamentarian at the time, Corey, or just?
Yeah, I don't know if I was parliamentarian or not, but I was very much invested in your change.
And so we worked on language, we figured something out, and we had a meeting at the Concord Hotel in the international president's room with all the other former international presidents. And if you don't think that was like a feeling of going into the lion's den, you, you haven't met in a room with Evelyn Henkind and Evelyn Arbeck and Audrey Sitek and whoever else was president at that time, and saying you can't do this and blah, 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 and all the reasons why it couldn't be done. And we just said, I gave them all the reasons why it should be done, and it passed at convention. And
Yep.
so that was changed, which of course then paved the way.
What year was that?
For Corey to be president, for Carol Simon to be president, for Rita to be president, for Julia Loeb to be president, and for anybody else living anywhere in this country who wants to be international president of Women's League.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcia. That's
So
great.
those are my memories. Now, what would I take with me from my own personal memories? I've got my T-shirt. I've got the key to the Concord Hotel because I walked out with it. Each time we were at the Concord Hotel, Seabird had the same room. It was F224. Now that key won't work anymore because the hotel's not there anymore. But just, you know, some of the seats, the chairs, the just the whole emotional atmosphere of davening with 2,000 women. I mean, these are things that are just etched in my memory. The year that we changed from branch to region was 2008.
So let me just share with you, those of you who will come to visit in the Northeast or have cause to be there because you live there. There is a wonderful, wonderful festival in the summer called and a museum called the Borscht Belt Museum.
Yeah.
It's in Ellenville, New York, and it is an absolute hoot to visit. I don't know how many of you have been there.
Not yet, but I do want to go. You've been there, obviously.
Look on the web, Google it and find out when the festival is, because we went last year and we stayed at a bed and breakfast not on Saturday, obviously, but on Sunday they have food trucks, kosher food trucks. I had some of the best pastrami that I've ever had. They have all kinds of lectures and films, and it's really fun. The Concord now is gone. The only thing that still exists is the golf course. Which I understand I don't play golf, but has exorbitant green fees.
Okay, I just Googled as you were Friday, July 25th.
Oh,
is coming up. They do this once a summer, apparently.
Yeah.
Once
Uh,
a-
And they have a Saturday schedule, which says sold out. Meet the Archivist field trip is sold out.
There's a lot of stuff that's
And
sold
then
out.
there's Sunday Blue Comedy, when comics cross the line. There's a bunch of things here.
What is this? What is this we're talking about?
It's the Borscht Belt Museum.
Borscht Belt Museum.
Bill, where in the Concourse area.
It's at Ellenville, in Ellenville, New York, and it's really fun. We just happened upon it and stayed at a bed and breakfast. It was a hoot.
Oh, Saturday night they have Punchlines with Chutzpah, Jewish women comics. So it does look like a really fun weekend.
Interesting. And the museum is open almost all year round. They don't have enough money for that yet. But we went to one of the things that we really enjoyed very much. We went to a docent-led. It's a small museum. It's located in the bank that gave a lot of these farmers who turned their farms into hotels. They loaned them the money. They were the main bank to create these hotels. And the vault is when we were there last year, the vault was set up as a hotel room in the 50s. I can't remember from what hotel, but it's just really fun. It's really fun. Anyway, thank you. Who else would like to share? Beth.
Oh, I am unmuted. Okay. So you mentioned Bernice Bolter. My recollection of Bernice, Philadelphia, the convention was held in Philadelphia. She had enlisted I guess they called them the mummers, to come and perform. They were all lined up. Now these are, working guys. These are blue collar guys. They have day jobs, but they also perform mummery. And they were all lined up to perform. The what word am I looking for? The investiture, the
Installation.
installation. Thank you. The installation was taking so long. It was taking so long, and people were coming up to Bernice. I guess I was seated very close. I could hear it, in earshot. They were coming up to her. Come on, get this moving, and let the guys perform and go home. She said, "No, this is." I don't know verbatim, but this is the crowning achievement of these women. This is what they have striven for all these years. Let them have as much time as they need for installation. And she let it go on, and everybody got installed. And the mummers said, "We're sorry, we have day jobs. We're leaving," and they did not perform. But and that was her call.
Yeah.
That her heart was with the women. How can you cut short this achievement? So that lovely memory of her.
Very
All
nice.
right. So what is now the Mid-Atlantic region was 3 branches. We were Philadelphia, South Jersey, and Eastern Pennsylvania. So at one time, we were the only region with 2 Women's League institutes. You had the Bernice Oswald in Pennsylvania, the Billy Rubinoff in New Jersey. We were one of the first regions, or maybe the first region, to have Women of the Wall come in person. To have Women of the Wall come in person as a speaker. I don't know. I guess a speaker of Women of the Wall. Lori Snow gave me that piece of information. I guess to have a speaker from Women of the Wall come to speak in person. One of the few regions in Women's League that can meet in person, and you can drive end to end in 2 to 4 hours. Let's see. Oh, okay. I got some other information about how much funds we raise for Women's League. We do a nice job year after year. Let's see. So So there's a strong history of also attending other regions' meetings. And I asked why. So first of all, Florida, because we have a lot of snowbirds. And, but also New Jersey and New York, the women would meet because this region produces a lot of leadership. And so they would meet in Hamilton, New Jersey, and take the train up to New York, or the New Jersey people would come on the bus. So there was a lot of sort of like inter-regional support. Let's see. And it was fun and as well, and it built Women's League support and friendships. What else? All right, and then I was told I should talk about how we advocated and adjusted to the conservative movement's gradual change to egalitarianism, and we also advocated for that. I mean, we moved it along. I remember in my synagogue, Ruth Perry. Does anybody remember her? She was. You do? Okay. Her daughter was about to become a bat mitzvah 5 months after me, and Ruth's dad was a rabbi in Philadelphia at a different shul. It's not a threat. There was nothing nefarious involved. She simply told the rabbi, if you don't allow my daughter to have a Saturday morning bat mitzvah, I'll take it to my father's shul. And lo and behold, Stephanie Perry became the first Saturday morning bat mitzvah, but too late for me because I was 5 months prior. But that was just a synagogue memory. Incidentally, my synagogue produced not one but two international presidents, Ruth Perry and Debbie Golditch. And on my very first interview that I did was with Lois Goldberg. And she gave me a beautiful, this would be my introduction to my work, a beautiful interview about how she was kind of shy and not very outgoing. Women's League taught her so many leadership skills, so much confidence, and she's just so grateful that now in her retirement community, she's like the mayor of the retirement community. She's the welcoming committee. She's the one that will take you on a tour and show you the ropes. And she credits it to Women's League and what they did for her.
Very nice. Thank you so much. I have to tell you a very funny story, which is not politically correct today. But one of the most beautiful things that happened was with Women's League was that my mother and I would go to convention together. And it was a very special time for us.
L'Ador Vador.
Yeah, but I was the first. I mean, she was not involved in Women's League other than her own sisterhood, and really not that much until I got involved in Women's League on not only sister but a branch and international level. And my mother was a heavy smoker, and we were at the Concord, and Ruth Perry and my mother used to smoke in the ladies' room. Ruth would take cigarettes from my mother, not politically correct. But it was such a lovely thing to get together. You know, people were real, and it was lovely, that face to face. And we'll talk about that some more.
I just have to say, my fifth grade teacher used to tell us that she had to leave the room for a moment to fix her contacts, and she would come back reeking of smoke.
Oh.
It was what it was.
Nice Jewish lady.
Who else? Vivian.
I really want to ask a question more than anything. I'm offered to work with Terry because Terry has so much on her plate to put for those who don't know me, I'm a past region president from 2013 to 15. And I offered to work with Terry So far we have, as Corey, you know, I completed already a while ago the North Shore branch, which was one of the 3 branches for the region history. And I didn't know what format to follow. I just did my best and sent it in. And with some photos attached. And
You did a great job, by the way.
yeah, so thanks, but we're in various stages with the other former 2 branches. Plus, the region, it's still the region level from 2008 forward. I'm sure you want that. Most people here have been talking about the branch history, but I'm sure you want a big focus on that too. I mean, we haven't really gotten seriously underway. We made a first pass like a year and a half ago, but it was very cursed. It needs to more work. So my question is, I looked at online, of course, that the Pacific Southwest is the only region that has their complete story. And it's very impressive, very well done, comprehensive. And I'm feeling a little intimidated by it because among the problems, first, on a personal level, I didn't get involved with Women's League till I was sisterhood president, late to the party, 2004 to 6. I was sisterhood president. First time I went to a Women's League meeting and got involved with branch then for the last couple of years, and then region. So I don't have that Concord experience myself, but I do know that one of the problems we have is the archives by and large have been lost. Things got at the branch and region level to some extent. Region's a little better because a lot of things were digitally saved. But a lot of the people who were leaders are gone, unfortunately. Even most tragically, some recent losses like and we also had some past international presidents, as you know, in our regions, such as Evelyn Seelig and Gloria Cohn and Janet Tobin. I did interview Janet Tobin in her kitchen a year and a half ago when I was working on the branch history, because she had that perspective as well as being president. So that was very helpful. But physically, there's a lot of missing stuff because archives were passed from person to person, and the last person either, I know for North Shore branch, passed away and nobody knows what happened. And in other cases, people moved and downsized and things didn't survive. So I'm looking at the Pacific Northwest, which one was in the Southwest? I'm sorry. And being very impressed with that and thinking where we're starting. I also want to bring up, though, that an earlier email from you, Corey, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because I captured it and sent it to someone else, had these other 10 questions. And I had it on my phone and I thought those were excellent starting points. And if I can ask you whether I think it still covers a lot of things. If I can find the factual history, date by date, what conference we did this year and that year, and what I'm hearing from this group is a lot of things are impressionistic, and that's fine, right?
Yes. So let
So
me.
these questions you sent earlier I don't know if you want me to read them.
They're
It's not a lot.
interview questions, correct?
What?
Are they interview suggestions?
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly
Some
right.
are general, some are, I love them and I thought it was a good starting point. So it's harder, I think, to say what are the 10 memories you want to take with you if there's then to drill down a little. So for example, asking former leaders, did you visit each sisterhood? What region, I think this was geared towards region presidents. What modes of communication did you use? What was your proudest achievement or innovation? What difficulties did you encounter? What was happening in society or the world that impacted you, your region? What role did you play in branch to region transition? What do you feel is the lasting legacy that resulted from your administration? What insights can you provide for today's region leaders? What else in your institutional memory should be, who else should be contacted? I mean, that's good stuff. It's more geared towards region presidents. So I'm seeing, like, trying to approach this from different sides, and where do you want us to go from here? You know, I don't, Terry, do you have anything to add? Because I see it as a process of interviewing a lot of people and seeing what's in the records and just seeing how much could be pulled together. And photos, right? You do want photos. So any advice would be welcome, unless Terry has something to add first to what
I just want to say, you know, I feel that sense of being a little overwhelmed as well, because we had these, I think it's 4 branches actually, Vivian, because we have Brooklyn too. And there's, you know, so many of, and Vivian as the President's Council leader could tell you that so many of our former branch presidents, you know, are just not available anymore. They don't do email. You know, Vivian's been wonderful in calling and sending snail mail letters, but they're just not available to share information because they don't remember, or the stuff, as she said, is gone. And that, you know, leaves a lot of holes. And, you know, my husband tells me I get stuck in the details. So here I am stuck in the details, not seeing the broader picture because I can't even fathom what that's going to look like. You know, just the work that Vivian already did is so comprehensive, but that's only one of our 4 branches. And so, you know, we need 3 other people that are going to be willing to do the same. And, you know, we've been very fortunate. Someone offered, and then health reasons precluded her from continuing. So someone else said they would do it. You know, I use the expression voluntold, and that person is now also ill. So I don't want to apply pressure to her, but she has a lot of information for us. So, and I'm not quite sure who to ask, for example, from the Brooklyn area, because I think we have 2 sisterhoods left from that area that are still affiliated, and they're mostly an older population. You know, the people aren't as available sometimes. So,
Harry, I'm going to let Sandy talk because I believe those questions are from what Sandy developed for her region and branches, and they're brilliant. So, Sandy, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, Vivian, I've been on this ball game with Corey since the very, very beginning, and I can tell you honestly that we don't have a lot of material anymore that we did it. We have some, we have photographs, but we don't have a lot anymore. Lana has her stuff at the University of Washington, and her and Jennifer are planning to take a visit to the UW to see if they can get a hold of the materials that she's donated there. But it's, I started out, Vivian, by interviewing past region branch presidents. And we have a video of that. Corey was with us with that. And everything takes time, and it's a process. And I think all of our histories are going to look a bit different. They're not all going to, they're just going to be different because we're all different. And also because it's been really challenging for me to figure out how I'm writing this, because there are several of us on the team. Not everybody's on it with us today. Lana's with me today, thankfully. But the fact of the matter is she's like the eldest in our region. God bless you, lady. And the fact of the matter is that it's going to be interesting what we put together between now and February. We're working really hard on it. And yes, I did talk today about memories and impressions, but I did those questions and received answers to them, God, I guess over a year ago. But you're right. They're very important questions, and they should be part of your process.
So, Vivian, thank you so much for your question. I think it's a really good question. And I'm going to answer part of it with a question and a statement. The reason that we study history is to help us in the present and in the future. We learn from history, and we use what we learn from history to help us with the present and to help us to navigate the future as well. I think if you think back on the lessons you've learned from the past, they're not a picture necessarily. They're not a conference program. They're not a so much a hands-on piece of paper. What they are is the story. It's the story. I don't care how much actual information and how many details are in your history. Personally, I think it's wonderful if you have details, and I've provided you, a lot of you, all of you, with details on who your sisterhoods were, on who the presidents were, so on and so forth. So you can add some of those details. But the most important thing is, who were you? And what was your culture? And by understanding the culture and your successes and your failures, then we can help those in the present and in the future. Don't worry about making sure all that information is there. We can, if you have 5 pictures in your history, or if you have 50, it's lovely, and the pictures break it up. That's nice. And you've got on the website, the archives section of the website, you've got pictures of the creative handcrafts things that each region and branch did. So you can break it up with that. You've got branch presidents' classes and so on and so forth. And I can help you look for other pictures that I might have. But we really want to get the flavor of who you were and how you developed into who you are. I think that the key to that is interviews. I think Sandy's absolutely right. And I wouldn't, we work and we email and we ask them to answer questions and so on and so forth. You may just have to call them and just start a conversation.
Corey, I get a sense, at least from just starting at the very beginning, that it has to be an oral interview, whether it's on the phone or Zoom or in person, going to lunch, We're fortunate that our region is a little compact. But though people have moved, and not to have people write something down, because you're not going to get the flavor as well as you are if somebody tells you their story orally and you record it or you write it down. Because I remember when I was working on the branch history for BQLI, for North Shore branch of BQLI region, which was Queens and part of Long Island, the part of northern, western Long Island closest to New York City. And Janet told me a funny story. She goes, well, maybe we shouldn't put this in writing, but it's okay to put in writing that she was organizing a conference for the branch, and the synagogue, they went to rehearse the speeches and the whole program 3 days before the conference at the synagogue. And they found out that women would not be allowed to hold a Torah or have anything. I don't remember the year, I wrote it down somewhere, but go anywhere near the Torah, though she was assuming that was the plan. And some gentleman who was the caretaker, or he was some macha there, said, absolutely not, you're not going to touch it. And that's the end of it. So in 3 days, she had to find another synagogue to do the conference that had been in the planning for a year. So stories, it's funny, and there's nothing wrong without naming names to telling a story like that. So,
and that story is Janet and I were branch presidents together.
yeah.
And that story is a signature story for your region and the branches that,
Right.
and for Women's League,
Yeah.
because Janet then became Women's League International president
Right.
after that.
And she told me how she influenced, that became a priority for her, making sure.
Absolutely. And the Mitzvah Torah
That
program
Torah was born from
was
that.
Right,
a
right.
product of that experience. So learning from the past to impact the present and the future. I mean, she was courageous. I think it's probably the most courageous act that I've ever seen Janet do, and she's done quite a few. But she was so courageous in that to say, basically, excuse my language, screw you, we're people and we're going to go someplace where we can touch that Torah, where we can do what we need to do. And I think that's a centerpiece story of your history. I don't think it's a funny, I mean, it's humorous in that,
Okay, yeah,
what
okay.
we end up doing, but that tells so much. And it teaches so much. It's not going to be today, I hope, never again, something where you're not allowed because you're a woman to do something within Judaism or within the community. But it's going to say you can make change. And it will teach the future who read about that story that you can make change. You can do something that's not being done right, and you can make that change. We are strong and we are courageous.
So if you ask someone to just write something down for you, you may not capture the best moments. So sometimes people have to be sitting there at the kitchen table and just thinking things through, and it comes out, memories come. So maybe, those kind of, whether the interviews are through phone or Zoom or however it's done.
So my
agree.
suggestion, and I've made this before, and I really think it's something that I would like to see you try, and I think it will be successful for you, is to call them. You can record the call. It's easy to do. Your phones can do that. Your cell phones, if you use a cell phone, and I hope you all do for that. Or you can set up a Zoom with them and use those questions that you find provocative that you just read to us, Vivian. And once you start, it's only going to take them the time it takes to talk with you. But you're going to get that information. And the more questions you ask, the more their memories will come up. So one of the things that I did, and I've told you this before, is that, I'm telling you to write a history and have people write histories. And I said, you know what? I got to write a history because I have to see how it feels and how hard it is. And so I sat down. I'm a past president of the Eastern Pennsylvania branch. I did not stay with my branch because I'm for Harrisburg. So I'm now Seaboard, which is wonderful. But I miss my Eastern Pennsylvania buddies too. And I just sat down and used my memories to create and some of the resources that are on the website to create that history, which is in that folder on the history that I wrote is in the folder under regions, and then in the regions folder, once you sign in, there's an archives folder or a history folder. I can't remember exactly what it is. And I put my history in there. So, and there's other resources there. All the questions are there. It's all there for you. So call them and talk to them, but say, hey, we're recording this because I want to make sure that we get your memories. You have to tell them you're recording. And then you can glean from that. And I would do the writing, and then don't worry about having the conference brochures and all that other stuff. We'll help you with that, and you'll find a few things. And if it's, we'd like to break it up with some visuals, but if we don't, it's more important to have the writing. Does that help?
Yeah.
Cindy, you had your hand up.
I have 3 things, and I was very disturbed. Last Shabbat, and you're the loom lady, so you make the taluses. Listen to this carefully. I was told by someone who read Torah every week at Anshe Emet in Chicago with Rabbi Siegel, Michael Siegel. He said, he's a Martradah. He will not let a woman read Torah if she's not wearing a talit. And my friend has been reading Torah for many years there. And now she does not read Torah because she doesn't wear a talit. She never has. And she will only, and this is disturbing to me. And she reads Esther, she reads Hallel, she does everything else, but she cannot, in his synagogue, he's a Martradah, but it's like a step back, that she chooses not to wear a talit, and she cannot, in his synagogue, do a read from Torah on a Shabbat, or any aliyah like that, okay? Or she can have an aliyah, but she can't read from Torah.
So that's sad.
It is, and
Yep.
she's like 78.
So,
Yeah.
the only thing that I mean, there's no,
It's disturbing to me, and
Very
she just told me about it. Yeah,
that were my synagogue, I would have a conversation with the rabbi,
yeah,
and I would also go to the ritual committee and talk to them.
yeah. Okay. And two, I was thinking back of the themes. It was Judy Walder, who was Julian Krieger's sister-in-law, because I called Carol Gottman. That's why I had okay. And I was like freaking out. But then I remembered all of the themes. Your themes from your conferences are like a picture of your culture. One year we had from Judy Walder, Call to Action, and it was the big megaphone, Call to Action. And then the next couple years later, we had a spa day. That was the conference theme, which was SPA for sisterhood, P for prayer, and A for action.
Fabulous.
And then I'm going, yeah, but that was like the culture. And the culture, because we were such a close-knit group, like here or you're not afraid to speak. People support you, and you're doing this as a group together, which is not always the case. And as we got bigger, it changes. So I'm not going to speak again. So thank you.
The only thing I'm telling you and the group is thank you very much for that. And I hope that at some point she can affect a change, because I think it's sad. But take what you have and write your history. Don't let what you don't have paralyze you, because we want to do it all, right? We all want to be perfect. I mean, I know that we all want to be perfect in some way or not. And so if you look for that perfection and it paralyzes you, you're not going to get anything done. So just start it. That's why I decided to finally give you a date. I want it by February, because we've got to start it. And once it gets started, you may find other stuff. And you know what? It's electronic, and you find more stuff. Great. We'll put it in. We'll update it. You find, you have histories of each of the administrations, let's say, as an example, and you find that you've gotten more information on this administration, or you've finally gotten a hold of that past president and she's done a piece. Great, we'll put it in. It's not difficult. We're not printing these. So just do it. What is it, Nike? Just do it? Yeah? Okay. Anybody else want to share? So I wanted to share with you from Jody Jacklin, who's Intercontinental and Midwest region. Randy, where's Randy? There's she identified 5 things for her that were meaningful. The photos throughout the eras, and she feels that pictures can bridge back to stories. specifically how we were foundational. Many of our affiliates, and I don't know if you know this, but many of our affiliates were among the first 12 or so chapters that were formed before 1920. We had a big contingency in Central, in that Midwest area. Laura Lee Spiro. How many of you knew of Laura Lee? Oh, good. It's nice. Laura Lee was a region or a branch member who did a tremendous amount of productions. If you look through the script catalogs, a lot of those scripts were written by Laura Lee, and she did musical presentations for, especially for conventions.
Started at conferences, at our region branch conferences and region conferences, and then international saw them, the consultants saw them, so it was sent in and they were accepted by international and then put on at convention.
Yeah. And so there should be a thing, there, you have some people that had a major impact on your branches and region. And I give you a caution, because I had spoken to Bernice Balter about this, and she said, you have to be careful if you're going to highlight people, because there are people who are not going to be highlighted who are going to be upset.
Mhm.
But you know what? If they're upset, and then say, okay, come on, let's interview you and we'll put you in. Okay. That's the beauty of being able to add easily. Another thing that she would take is information about egalitarianism and the start of the conservative movement and how it started within the movement. And the fifth one that she talked about was showcase our strengths in the Midwest, even though the strongest population is in the Northeast and West Coast of the country. So Midwest was a force. The Midwest area of the country was a force.
I was really surprised working on this, that Midwest became a branch. It joined Women's League in 1938. That really surprised me. I didn't know it was that early on. Southwest didn't join until 1946. And it's just interesting. In the Midwest, we were a force then, but
Yeah.
but we were, our leadership was different from the international organization then. So
So I think it's I hope that you're getting a sense as to the fact that you can do this, and that do it however you can. I've said to you before, you can have 1 page or 100 or even 150 if you want, but at least start writing. I started to tell you that I sat down and I wrote the Eastern Pennsylvania branch history as I remembered it, using the resources that are on the website. It took me about an hour and a half to do that. And I was writing it as a past branch president. Now I'm also a geek when it comes to this archiving stuff, so I did have an interest to it. But you'd be surprised at what you can come out of your mind just with what you know. I mean, Lana did that with her memories, that she's going to be will be part of the North by Northwest history. Thank you, Lana. So any other comments? Are you feel motivated a little bit? I mean, I know it's work, and I know that it's something on your to-do list, and we know we always want to get rid of those things. But please please recognize that it's fun too. I think that some of you who have begun, I know that Sandy, you've had fun. And Vivian, you're having fun. I can hear it in what you've done so far. And just enjoy it and learn from it. And again, if it's only 1 page, that's okay. I'm most interested in two things, as I've told you. One is to have a record of the past so that we can impact the present and the future. And the other thing is to not have, you know, and I've said this before as well, that we die twice. Once physically, and the second time that we die is when no one remembers who we are and what we contributed. And I don't want the branches, and I don't want Women's League and the regions to die twice. We haven't died once. The branches are no longer. But if we write down their history, we can still learn from them and we can still remember them. And it's kind of fun. At least I think it is. Any comments? Yes, Beth, you're muted. Oh, you're not muted.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm wondering, those people who are into, you know, who have some work already accomplished, are you doing it chronologically? Are you doing it by person, you know, person quotes, by theme? What's the format?
Anyone want to answer that? There was one of our, there is some material in that archives region in the region folder with the archives on how to organize. And you're naming all of the ways to organize, and you may want to do it any of those ways. And you may want to start out with it done by chronologically, but then within the chronology, put in theming. I mean, that's up to you, and whichever way works best for you. You can do a combination of them or whatever. I mean, Pacific Southwest, I believe, if I remember, because I haven't read it in a while, did it thematically.
That's what I think, yes.
Yeah. But they could have done it chronologically with themes from specific eras, you know, within that chronology. They also did it by recollections of past presidents was part of that. So they had the themes, but then they had the recollections of the past presidents. So whichever way, once you collect your information, it may begin to give you an organizational structure. Does that help? Okay, other questions, challenges, thoughts? Randy?
Lori, I've been on the archives, you know, I've gone to the webpage often and went into the archives. And today I went and I was looking, and I'd seen it before, the work done by I guess it was Pacific Southwest that have finished there. I think it's entered there. But I couldn't find it again. Where am I? I went into archives, and then
the archives, the Pacific Southwest history, since it's completed, you click on the archives button. You don't have to sign in.
Pardon me?
You don't have to sign in. You don't have to log in.
Oh, okay, I did, but anyway.
Okay. You click, well, then maybe that's why you couldn't find it. Go back.
Okay.
Go back to the home page, click on the archives button, because that's something that no one has to log into.
Okay.
Get the information. And then you'll see, once you click on the archives button, you'll see a folder for regions and branches.
Okay.
And it's in that.
It's in that, but so that I can click on that and go in. Okay. Thank you. I didn't know, because I know I'd seen it and I'd read it a couple of times. And then I went back to look for something and I couldn't find it.
Unfinished pieces like the one from for BQLI from, what is it, North Shore, Vivian? The one that was done?
Yes.
North Shore is not there.
That's all right. No, I mean, I must.
Let me tell you that you have to log in to get to that. It is there, but it's in the regions folder under the archives history, region history project or something like that. I can't remember what what the title was of the folder, but you'll see it. And there's lots and lots, probably too much directives and information and videos of our meetings and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you very much. That's
You're
good.
welcome. Other questions, comments, challenges, successes?
To go.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Do you want to continue meeting? Are you finding this helpful? Yes, no?
Jennifer, yeah, she got the email that we sent.
I will set up some meetings in the future, like every other month or so, and those of you who
helps.
want, you can come.
Definitely.
So,
Anything is, did she get it?
you know that I'm available anytime,
Okay,
okay?
that's great. Thank
For
you.
coming. Don't get wet, don't get too hot, wear your sunscreen and have a good summer.
Thank you.
You.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Lori.
My pleasure.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see everybody.
Love to see everybody.